Socialism. Socialism is a political, social, and economic philosophy encompassing a range of economic and social systems characterized by social ownership of the means of production. It includes the political theories and movements associated with such systems. Social ownership can be public, collective, cooperative, or of equity. Socialists argue for shared or governmental ownership and administration of the economy's resources and means of production. Liberalism. Liberalism is a political and moral philosophy based on liberty, consent of the governed, and equality before the law. Liberals generally support free markets, free speech, a limited government, individual rights, including civil rights and human rights, capitalism, democracy, secularism, gender equality, racial equality, internationalism, freedom of religion, and freedom of the press. Fascism. Fascism is a far-right authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, as well as strong regimentation of society and the economy. It arose in early 20th century Europe from a mix of nationalist, racial, and populist causes. Anarchism. Anarchism is a political philosophy and movement that is skeptical of authority and rejects all involuntary, coercive forms of hierarchy. Anarchism calls for the abolition of the state, which it views as undesirable, unnecessary, and harmful. Syndicalism. Syndicalism is a radical political ideology that advocates for the control of economic and political systems by trade unions or syndicates. Rejecting both capitalism and state socialism, syndicalists aim for the direct action and self-management of workplaces and the economy by workers themselves. They believe in organizing society through federations of collectivized industries, services, and agricultural facilities. Syndicalism emphasizes workers' solidarity, direct action, such as strikes, and the eventual abolition of the state and capitalism to create a self-managed, decentralized society. Communism. Communism is a philosophical, social, political, and economic ideology and movement whose ultimate goal is the establishment of a communist society, which is a socio-economic order structured upon the ideas of common ownership of the means of production and the absence of social classes, money, and the state. Communism is more radical than socialism. Progressivism. Progressivism is a political ideology that advocates for social, political, and economic reform to address injustices and inequalities within society. Rooted in the belief that progress is achievable through human action, progressivists aim to improve the human condition by promoting policies that foster fairness, equity, and sustainability. This ideology emerged as a response to the rapid industrialization, urbanization, and economic inequality of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, emphasizing the need for government intervention to protect workers, consumers, and citizens at large. Progressives champion a variety of causes, including environmental protection, civil rights, social justice, and universal health care, advocating for systemic changes to ensure equal opportunities for all. They support the use of scientific knowledge and technology to address social issues and favor education and innovation as tools for societal improvement. By advocating for democratic principles and inclusive policies, progressivism seeks to create a more equitable and just society through gradual, reform-oriented change. Populism. Populism is a political ideology that emphasizes the role of the people versus the elite or establishment. It operates on the premise that society is divided into two antagonistic groups, the pure people and the corrupt elite, and seeks to champion the rights, values, and voices of the ordinary person. Populism can manifest on both the left and right of the political spectrum, with left-leaning populists typically focusing on economic inequality and advocating for the redistribution of wealth, while right-leaning populists often emphasize national sovereignty, immigration control, and cultural identity. Populist movements and leaders claim to represent the will of the people, often employing rhetoric that simplifies complex issues and presents straightforward solutions to multifaceted problems. They tend to criticize existing political institutions and elites for being out of touch with or actively working against the interests of the common people. While populism can energize democratic participation by mobilizing disenfranchised voters, critics argue that it can also undermine democratic norms and institutions by fostering division, distrust, and intolerance. Separatism. Separatism is a political ideology advocating for the separation of a specific group of people from a larger political entity to form a new independent state or society, often based on ethnic, religious, linguistic, or cultural distinctions. Separatists seek autonomy or independence due to perceived discrimination, oppression, or a desire to preserve their distinct identity and self-determination. Moderatism. Moderatism is a political ideology emphasizing pragmatic and balanced approaches to governance, eschewing extreme viewpoints for the sake of practical and equitable solutions. Advocates of moderatism prioritize stability, gradual change, and consensus building, aiming to navigate the middle path between the polarities of political discourse. This ideology is characterized by a willingness to compromise and a focus on policies that promote social harmony and economic stability. Imperialism. Imperialism is a political ideology and practice characterized by the extension of a nation's authority and dominion over foreign territories through colonization, military conquest, or economic domination. This expansionist approach aims to increase a nation's power and wealth by acquiring control over additional lands and exploiting their resources, labor, and markets. Imperialism often involves the imposition of the imperial power's culture, economic systems, and political structures on the colonized regions. Libertarianism. Libertarianism is a political philosophy that upholds liberty as a core principle. Libertarians seek to maximize political freedom and autonomy, emphasizing freedom of choice, voluntary association, and individual judgment. They advocate for minimal state intervention in the lives of citizens and the economy. Corporatism. Corporatism is a political ideology that views society as an organic body and seeks to integrate the interests of various social groups, like businesses, labor unions, and government agencies, into the governance process. Unlike systems advocating for class struggle or individual autonomy, corporatism aims for collaboration among these groups within a hierarchical framework to maintain social harmony and order. It emphasizes the role of intermediate bodies, corporations, guilds, professional associations, in negotiation and decision-making, potentially minimizing conflict through collective representation. Feminism. Feminism seeks to address issues of gender inequality and has influenced political ideologies, advocating for women's rights and equality between genders. Capitalism. Capitalism is an economic and political ideology centered on private ownership of the means of production and their operation for profit. Core tenets include individual property rights, capital accumulation, wage labor, voluntary exchange, a price system, and competitive markets. In a capitalist economy, decision-making and investment are determined by owners of wealth, property, and production capabilities in financial and capital markets, whereas prices and the distribution of goods are mainly influenced by competition in goods and services markets.